people are giving so much because they want to help in some way. So we're trying to steer a lot of people into giving money, and so we're just getting out on the best way to donate and the best way that you can help. We've had people from the mainland U.S. say, do you need doctors? Do you need help? We'll help. People are just reaching out, and it's great to see you this time.
Yeah, we're going to speak to the doctor who is helping out on the ground in just a few moments. But you talked about these search and rescue missions. These National Guardsmen and the police officers are going through and trying to find people, but potentially also recovering bodies. I mean, what's the biggest challenge with an effort like that, given that so many of these neighborhoods are just incinerated, that roads are blocked, that there's ash everywhere?
I think one of the biggest challenges is that the National Guard is a community-based organization. They're made up of people from that community. I heard somebody else say it today on the radio. Imagine going to the neighborhood and going to houses and finding somebody, or even a neighbor, someone you knew of. But I would say that would be the hardest part, is being from that community and then going in there and just having to do your duty, assist those first responders and everybody else to try to get back to a sense of recovery and the build back. So to me, the hardest part is being from there and knowing what used to be there and what's there now.
And how you grew up there? How long have you lived there?
I lived there all the way up until high school. So I grew up in Kihei, and there was a fire on near Kihei on that side of the island too. There were 3 on Maui. Now it didn't affect the urban area nearly as much as Lahaina, but everybody went to Lahaina. Lahaina was the great resort town. The best Halloween was on right there on Front Street. Everybody goes there for the fishing. The water is beautiful. The beaches are gorgeous. Tourists flock there because the water is just amazing. And it was a neat town, and I'm sure it's going to build back and be stronger than ever. But it's going to be a while before that happens.
And I know we're speaking to you in your official capacity, but I mean, this is just so clearly personal for you. I mean, have you ever seen anything like this?
Being in the National Guard, we share a lot of stories with other National Guardsmen from other states, and the California National Guard and what they had to do with the Paradise Fire and some of those other fires, in the last decade, and hearing their stories of what they had to do, seeing their pictures, because we're all in public affairs, so we see the photos and the video, and it looks just like that, and we never thought that would happen here. We're talking a town that got enveloped. There were some 80-mile-per-hour gusts, and it happened at night from a hurricane that didn't even hit Hawaii. It was a whole bunch of things aligned the wrong way, and it just surprised everyone. But no, we never thought that it could happen, and I've never seen anything like this.
And what are you hearing about how busy hospitals are? I mean, have you heard anything about the number of injuries and what that looks like from that perspective?
Yeah, I heard there was about 30 burn victims. There was 3 that are in critical. I think those guys have been evacuated to Oahu for follow-on, more serious service. I heard there's a firefighter who was in stable conditions, and he's doing okay. And that's just so far. There's still people on that side of the island. They're doing bus evacuations. So the visitors, they're taking them to the Kahului airport, and they're either flying home or they're flying to Oahu to stay in the convention center, which was set up, or if they're a resident, then they're being taken to a shelter. And one of the big concerns that we have now is, the amount of resources we have for the island. So we're trying to get the visitors out that can go out and go home, and then take care of the residents that are there and preserve what we got. But right now we're busing people out slowly. There are still roads that are closed. There's still buildings and other fires that are brush fires are like you said, they're more contained than they were yesterday. We have 2 Chinook helicopters from the Hawaii National Guard assisting with fire suppression, and they told us yesterday they could see a difference. So, yeah, a lot of things are changing, and they're going to start moving in a different direction. But it's just amazing. This is something we've never seen and never expected.
I can hear it in your voice that you're just how surprised you are by this and what you're being forced to deal with, not just you and your neighbors as well.
It's a little bit of comfort knowing that whatever I'm going through, the long hours I'm doing to get messaging out like this, coming on the show and getting to share the message of what our great first responders and National Guardsmen are doing, but to get to hear the stories. And so, it's an honor for us to do that. But just imagine the people who lost their homes, their businesses, pets, friends, and what they're going through. Nothing. So if we gotta work hard to do it, we will.
Yeah, and of course those estimated 1,000 people that are still missing tonight. Jeff Hickman, I know that there's a lot going on right now, and we thank you for your time tonight and for joining us.
Thank you very much, Kim.
I want to bring in Dr. Reza Dinesh, a private doctor on Maui. He founded MODO, which is a nonprofit that provides free health care. And doctor, I know that a lot has been going on for people who are in your profession, have your skills. We just heard from Jeff, who was talking about the hospitals, and they are dealing with burn victims. What are you seeing on the ground?
So first of all, thanks for having me. And you're absolutely correct. A company that I started, and we did a nonprofit called Motor for the People, and we just got accredited with the 501c in June. It couldn't happen at a better time. I've been in Yardok, Long Island, fighting COVID and doing house calls as a concierge doc, and I've had these mobile units out here. And I realized on Wednesday morning, which was yesterday, I knew the fires were happening. Everyone got the warnings. My clinic is in Wailea, which is on the south side of the island. We didn't know what was happening in Lahaina at all. Nobody had text messages or images or anything like that. Once the paramedics kind of got there and we know each other, they kind of texted, hey doc, there's bodies on the ground a lot and they're around, and I realized this was serious. So I kind of decided to just open up my clinic, make it free for anyone that needed it, called in extra staff, and I, rounded up people in my mobile unit that I'm actually sitting in and headed out to the field just to help. I went to the shelter they set up at War Memorial, and then I went to Maui High. Everybody just gave me food and water and supplies that they thought I would need for Lahaina, which was a good call. I had my own medical stuff, and I hit the ground running and called the mayor, and luckily they allowed us to get through that roadblock. And we went through another road, and which was very scary at the time because I didn't realize what I was walking into and how devastated the road and the damages were. Trees were on the ground, huge concrete blocks were pulled out. There were it was basically, it reminded me a little bit of COVID and the pandemic, like how you see images in New York. It was like a ghost town. But being there just while it was still fresh and hot, like an atomic bomb had gone off, I still could smell the stuff. I could still feel the heat. I could see small flames, I could see trees burning. And as we rolled through my big red van, I'll show you guys on a tour in a minute if we have time. And people came out of the woodwork like survivors. And I realized, wow, have we done a sweep through in this area or not? We had another shelter on the west side, but like, how are people going to get there? The shelter is a couple miles away. And a guy came up to me like, hey, I'm here to help. He's like, food. I'm like, what? He's like, I haven't eaten in 2 days. And I'm like, yeah, thank God I have some. So I did a lot of basic stuff, providing water and food. And then I started capturing some patients that had eye injuries, respiratory issues, people just kind of in shock and denial. Some people refusing to go with me. They wanted to sit where they were. They're looking for their dogs. It was like very traumatic for me, and I'm in Yardok, and I trained in UCLA and LA, and I've seen a lot of trauma. And to be there on the ground level, it was, I've seen earthquakes in LA, I've seen floods out in Hawaii from rain, but this was something nobody expected. I don't think anyone knew how severe it was, and I was the first medical team and the only one that is on foot. The Red Cross is set up in shelters.
You actually, I'm right. You actually ended up helping a woman. I think one of the most devastating things that we've heard about this is people were literally jumping into the water because it was the only safe place for them. You actually helped a woman who had to do just that, just to escape from the fires.
Yeah, so I kind of was, it's just like bedside manner. I asked someone, hey, how did you get hurt? How are you? Where are you from? And I was dealing with her stress and cuts and wounds and respiratory issues. And I asked her, like, so, and I hate to be nosy and ask, but I was like, so what was it like, And she's like, well, I just looked out the window and I saw the fire, and we kind of got a small warning, but not enough. And you can't predict that. And I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus by saying they didn't get enough warning. But it's just like, how can you predict this? She said she saw the flames coming. She grabbed what she could, left her bird to burn, left her other pets. And I don't know how she was holding it together, talking to me, and she just started running to the ocean. So I'm envisioning the scene of like sunset time, running to the ocean for your life, jumping in the water, and then so people got on rafts, surfboards, and paddled out. She's like, I remember the Coast Guard found those people. Like, there's people out at sea for all I know. And she's telling me her friend, who had a lot of respiratory issues and had some smoke inhalation, hung on. She hung on for 7 hours before things cooled off and they swam back to shore to walk or recuperate. And she goes, my friend died. Wait, so your friend was in the water holding on next to you and she died? And I'm starting having flashbacks to like the Titanic and thinking of that movie scene. I'm like, you can't make this stuff up. Like, this is real. And my heart goes out to her. And I just said, can I just record this video? And I became kind of a newscaster after I treated her. And that's how a lot of people saw that. But she wasn't the only one. We had another guy propelled 3 stories down with the rope he had. I'm like, were you in the military? He's like, no, I just always had this rope. I used to be a climber, but it saved my life. He said he felt the walls so hot, he knew not to open his front door. So he went out the window. But everyone in his building died. And he was just a straggler who survived. Like some people found buildings that didn't burn and they hid behind it. I don't know how they survived, and nobody had reached out to them. Because I'm lucky. I think the power was out, but I was driving over electrical lines and doing some kind of crazy stuff. It's like my calling and my mission to go out there, and I had my nurses and all the medical supplies. So we're able to like triage like 20, 30 people there, and then we went to another shelter that was on the west side, and I saw the main problem. The problem people don't realize, it's not like I'm in the yard, I'm there to help burns. Like the burns people, they die or they survive. And if they survive, they have a very low likelihood, especially on a rural island, survive because we don't have a burn center.
Yeah.
They have to be transferred.
I mean, Doctor, just to hear your stories and to hear you being one of the first people there, I mean, it's just amazing. We know that you have a lot of important work that you are doing right now. We're grateful, Dr. Dinesh, that you joined us tonight. Thank you, but we're going to let you get back to that. Thank you for your time tonight, though.
Yeah. Nice. Okay.
Thank you.